We are so far removed from the idea of America and its minarchism written in the United States Constitution, where we have to bring her back to where she belongs. Thank you for listening to this episode of Chasing Life, Liberty, and Minarchy. And future minarchists, as I like to call you guys. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. I'm your host, Mr. Roderick Threets, and welcome to the Chasing Life, Liberty, and Minarchy show, where we talk about everything, any and everything downwing libertarian. Because, again, in my personal opinion, the only way to get America out of this lurch is to revert it back to its minarchist state that it was created from, that blueprint we call the United States Constitution is that document that's going to bring her back to where she belongs, as I said in the intro video. I hope you guys have had a great week and all that good stuff. The burdens of your hearts are lifted. And any ailments that you may have or thought conundrums are lifted off of your shoulders and taken care of. We're at this crux in our country where people are actually A-OK with calling freedom subjective. Every single thing that our country currently stands for in a lot of people's eyes is just merely subjective. And I want to bring up something I was in a conversation with earlier on the TikTok. We are a nation of many ethnic groups. We're not a nation of races. We're a nation of many, many ethnic groups that have a value system that are same pretty much universally. I don't think that value system is strong enough anymore, because we have a lot of people in this country that can't read. We have a lot of people that come to this country just want to come here for the opportunity and yet want to turn it into the hellhole where they came from, thinking and calling it progress. These are the people that are coming into the country and subverting us from within. Not all of them. No, don't get me wrong, not all of them. I'm just speaking in general. They don't share our values when it comes to our country. Our country, the United States, was literally built on multiculturalism. Right? From the Native Americans in the Northeast to the Melungeon in Appalachia to the freedmen of the South, even to the white supremacists of the country at large, the Dutch, The French Canadians that came down to Louisiana. Hmm? The Native Americans that came out of the Mexican Empire, Mexican nation, settled in California. This nation was created on multiculturalism from its inception. Though this nation was not perfect from the beginning, though it was not perfect from the beginning, but those gentlemen that wrote that Constitution, that one line always sticks with me. In order to create a more perfect union, they knew the challenges of creating a nation of many different ethnic cultures. Because you gotta remember, these individuals that wrote this document were born here. We got to remember that. These individuals were born here in the colonies, right? Their grandfathers, and some of them, I would say great grandfathers, came over here in the early 1600s, right? Mid 1600s, right? And those guys that wrote that Constitution, the guys that wrote the Articles of Confederation, knew what they were up against. And they knew they did not want the bloated state of the monarchy to still rule over them. This is why they did what they did in 1765 when they went buck wild over the Stamp Act, right? These imperfect men created an imperfect country. Hence, in order to form a more perfect union, right? They knew it wasn't perfect, but they tried their best based on the values and the different things going on at that time. They tried their best, and I think they did a damn good job. They did a damn good job, bang up job. Hmm? But you got a few people that was never taught American history from our standpoint. They was taught it from a government standpoint, if you know what I mean, and gave them the illusion of what liberty and freedom is. Only to come here to subvert it. Hmm. You got American citizens that are subverting the country that gives them the freedom to do the things that they do. They would rather go into bondage than to do their own due diligence and support. What I will tell you is that they won't win. They will not win. They can't win. And the more they try to take from us, the more we have to fight back. Because these same people have bloated our federal government and bastardized this United States Constitution. What's even more important, though, are these young ones that are willing to throw away all of the dead bodies that piled up in the name of freedom on this soil. They're willing to throw it all away and dismiss it all because of how they feel. I reject every bit of that premise. Not only do I reject it, I reject it with so much animus, I want to breathe fire on it. If you're willing to have a government tell you what to do at every step and turn, you might as well just move anywhere else but the United States. Because I do want people to understand that. The United States Constitution is the only document in the world that tells the government what it cannot do. Let me repeat that. The United States Constitution is the only government forming document that tells government what it cannot do. All other countries' constitutions tell you what your rights are, and that's all you get. You don't get to fight for more rights in these other countries. You don't get that courtesy. So if that's what you want and you live here on the country within this nation of people, if that is what you want, go somewhere else. If you want to be controlled like that. These people don't share our values, folks. They don't share our values of liberty and freedom at all cost. We can't allow this subversion to continue, or we will end up on the revolutionaries' side of this paradigm that we've been talking about, the path to minarchy, incrementalism versus revolution. We will have to switch over to the revolution part. And we talked about that blueprint last week, right? Don't want it to go that route, but if we do, we will. And again, revolution doesn't necessarily mean violence. We talked about that. If y'all don't, if you need a refresher, go listen at the last episode of this last Sunday, where we talked about the Revolutionaries Manifesto. It's in the Revolutionaries Manifesto. We explored how a fundamental cultural shift, right, could render the state obsolete. We talked about that again. I think it was a great episode. If you haven't watched it or listened to it, go and take a gander. And all that stuff. Remember, before we get started in this episode, guys, the audio versions of all of the shows are now being uploaded. The Fifth Estate is its own podcast feed. You can find it. Just look up the Fifth Estate on anywhere you get your lovely your lovely podcast from. You guys know the Experience Today is its own feed. Southern Liberty is its own feed. So make sure you go grab, if you don't have it, grab the Fifth Estate. It's out there. The episodes will be being uploaded. It's going to be about a week or so before I get them all up there, but they'll all be there, and they'll be all in their own little buckets. Make it easier for you to find what you're looking for. Remember, like and subscribe. Recommend this show to your friends, at least one. If you don't have a friend, find a friend. Create a fake friend. I don't know. Do what you got to do. But anyway, like, share, all that good stuff. And make sure, if you're not following us on Patreon, check us out, patreon.com/TOLMF. You know, I write good stuff over there and post other things too. So, go ahead and get it, click over there and all that good stuff. I appreciate you. Today, this episode, we're going to look at the information revolution, right? And the rise of parallel institutions. I think we kind of touched on parallel institutions in the last episode, right? What we are going to do, right? we're going to kind of delve in what makes the revolutionary path possible, right? And what might be the most powerful force for liberty in the 21st century: decentralization, right? Mind you, this is not going to be about lobbying political parties, right? This kind of quiet, non-political revolution that's happening, it's literally happening right now too, right? But not on speeches, but on code, right? It's a revolution that allows the individual to opt out of the state's centralized systems without having to fire a single shot or even knock on a single door. This is what I'm calling the technologist path. And it's building the tools for a truly free society. The first part of this, this path, we're going to talk about the philosophy of decentralization, right? So, to give you some understanding on why decentralization is a revolutionary force, we have to understand its opposite, right? Centralization, right? The state, right? The state itself, in its own essence, is a centralized institution. It centralized control over our money, our information, our laws, and our ability to defend ourselves, right? This concentration of power is what allows the state to grow and become more of a not only violent threat, but the existential threat to liberty, right? That we've been discussing about, right? Decentralization, okay, is the direct counterforce. It's the process of distributing power, resources, and authority away from a central point and out to a network of individuals, right? Now, in the mind, this philosophy is very simple, right? If the state's power is derived from centralization, then the path to liberty is through decentralization, right? See, in a centralized system, you must ask for permission, right? Oh, Mr. State, I want to carry my fire. I want to exercise my Second Amendment. I want to go buy a firearm and carry it. No, 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 no. The state says, no, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You need to go get a license. You need to go take this class to get the license. Then you have a background check done. And then if all that checks out, then you can have permission to exercise your right. Right? See, in a decentralized one, you can just simply act on it, right? Technology, right, is making this possible on a scale that was once unimaginable, right? And those of us that are Gen X, we understand this very well because we lived through the boom of the telecommunications and technology uh, um, corridor, right? We went from computers that were taking big, huge cartridges to run to 5 1/4 floppies to 3.5 floppies to little thumb drives, right? We went from 56K internet to broadband, right? And by the literally by the end of the 2000s, right? We went through that technological phase, right? And it started making life a little easier and started decentralizing some things, right? And so the government said, nope, you got too much power. We're going to pull some of that back, right? One part of this, one case study that I kind of been looking into all week to create this episode and took notes on. I've been listening to people, that talk about Jasara Nasara, um, things of that nature, silver, gold, right? Things that, and just understand, just, getting a better. So I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to that Jasara Nasara stuff, whatever. I let the people say what they say and what they do, and I just retain the information because I'm not trying to be a jack of all trades. I got one lane and I stay in my lane and I mind my business, right? But from the information I gathered, right, is that the parallel economy will be the decentralization of the state, right? Because we have to remember the most powerful monopoly the state holds is over money, right? It's over money, right? See, because if you control the currency, the government, and I mean you as the government, right? The government can inflate it to pay for its debts. Do we not see that? They control the economy through central banks, right? Federal Reserve. And then they can turn around and freeze and seize your assets at will, literally, right? Civil asset forfeiture. Y'all heard of that? Yeah, we all have, right? See, this is a massive source of power and a huge threat to the individual financial sovereignty, right? And this is also a bastardization of the coinage clause in the United States Constitution, what they are doing, right? But remember, let's think about this, right? After the housing bubble, right, under Obama, right, and Occupy Wall Street, all that stuff, right? What started? What came? What was the end product? What was the product that came out of that? The little quiet revolution that came out of that cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, right? Right. See the revolutionary nature of cryptocurrency is its resistance to central control, right? And this just isn't a hypothetical concern, right? It's a historical reality, right? If we go back, right? If we go back to 1933, right? And we talk about FDR when he signed Executive Order 6102, which effectively criminalized the ownership of gold, right? Right? Those of y'all haven't read, go check it. Executive Order 6102 by FDR, right? It criminalized create more money. We've seen releases or seized by a single central authority. And this is why people like the Bidens of the world, the globalists of the world, to the point where remember Joe Biden signed that whole CBD CDBC see thing, right? The, to try to central to take us to crypto. They want the government wants control of everything. And money, big asset, right? See, algorithms, right? You don't need voter participation, right? Just simply turn that community to protect savings, from holding government can't reach, right? This is a